Welcome to Module 19, Growth Mindset. Here are a few quick reminders. Follow along on your anticipation guide and be sure to complete the questions within each section before moving on to the next video. There is a question box at the end of the module if you have any questions about the content of this module. Module 19 has been divided into three main parts: mindsets, mindsets in the classroom, and growth mindset and special education. Throughout the module, we'll be learning about how to increase student motivation and engagement through growth mindset. Before we get into the modules, let's take a minute to reflect on our own mindsets. There is space on your anticipation guide to record your answers to the following prompts. Write down one thing you have always been good at, one thing you don't think you'll ever be good at, and one thing you weren't good at but became good at over time. You can pause the recording until you are finished with this. Much of the content presented in this module is based on the best-selling book entitled Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. To set the stage for the rest of this module, think about this quote: "The view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way that you lead your life." Part 1, Mindsets. Have you ever heard a student say, "I'm bad at math. I'm not as smart as they are. My handwriting is terrible. I'm going to fail the test. I'll never be as good as they are"? Unfortunately, many students, particularly those with disabilities, believe they are incapable of doing well in school. This is often a result of the student's mindset. In this section, we're going to talk about two different types of mindsets and how they affect students as well as adults. When we think about mindsets, there are generally two categories: fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. Let's look closely at each one. People with fixed mindsets believe that skills are something you're born with. A common example of this is athletics. Some people believe a person is naturally athletic or unathletic. That means either you're born with the ability to throw a great curveball, or you simply will never be a great pitcher. People with a fixed mindset also believe that challenges should be avoided. They tend to give up easily. Going back to the baseball example, fixed mindset people would quit playing baseball as soon as they had one bad game or even one bad pitch. These people do not believe that effort is necessary. They would be unwilling to put in extra practice time to improve their baseball pitch. Fixed mindsets are also not open to feedback and constructive criticism. In baseball, they would not want to receive feedback from their coach about how they could improve, or wouldn't listen to anything their teammates had to offer. Finally, when a fixed mindset person struggles, they tend to blame others and become easily discouraged and give up. This means when a coach pointed out something for them to practice, they would become angry and yell at the coach or refuse to do any extra practicing. Now let's look at the growth mindsets and continue with our baseball analogy. A person with a growth mindset believes that skills can be acquired and improved over time. They believe that skills come from hard work and practice. A baseball player with a growth mindset would believe they could improve their pitching skills and learn how to throw a great curveball from repeated practice. When growth mindset people are faced with challenges, they embrace it as an opportunity to grow and improve. A bad game for a growth mindset baseball player would simply motivate them to improve their skills and come back stronger than ever at the next game. The growth mindset person is persistent. They do not easily give up, and they put a maximum effort into each task. A growth mindset baseball player would show up to every practice ready to give their best effort and would also practice on their own time. Growth mindset people want feedback. They find it useful and helpful to have others identify how they can improve. This baseball player would ask for feedback from coaches and teammates and use that constructive criticism to improve their skills. Finally, the growth mindset person sees setbacks as a reminder to work harder. This baseball player rises to the challenge and sees setbacks as just a small roadblock on the path to success. In reality, most adults are a mix of both mindsets. Think back to the questions you completed at the beginning of this module. Most likely, the thing you identified as being something you were always good at is likely something you have a growth mindset about. For example, I identified that I have always been good at playing the piano. I've always had a growth mindset about piano. I've never minded practicing. I found challenging pieces to be fun to learn, and I always use feedback from my piano teachers as a way to improve. Conversely, I've always felt I've been bad at art. I have more of a fixed mindset about art. I tend to give up when I make a mistake, and I never appreciated my art teacher's feedback over the years. However, I can't help but think that I would have been more successful at drawing and painting if I had just changed my mindset. Now let's think about mindset in terms of students. What motivates students to try hard in school? Why are some students highly motivated while others are not? Quite simply, mindsets control student motivation. To better explain the link between motivation and mindset, let's look at this graphic. On the right, we see the fixed mindset student. This student believes that skills are black and white. Either she's good at it or not. This student also might say things like, I don't like to be challenged, or I stick to what I know. Does that sound familiar to you? Do you have students like this? Now let's look at the growth mindset student. This student likes to learn new things and appreciates challenges. She is likely to say, I can learn to do anything I want, or challenges help me develop and grow. Now think about the students you know who have a growth mindset. Chances are these students are always up for a new challenge and are engaged in instruction. The good news is that mindsets can be changed. Every student has the potential to become a growth mindset student and to be motivated to tackle new challenges and learn new skills. The trick is for educators to help change these mindsets. Let's watch this video to learn a little bit more about Dr. Dweck's work on mindsets.
If you operate in the world of sports or education, you've most likely heard of the term growth mindset. It's a concept that's sweeping the world and changing and improving the way that people learn. This powerful idea has been pushed forward by Stanford professor and best-selling author Carol Dweck.
For decades, I've been studying why some people succeed while people who are equally talented do not. And over the years, I've discovered that people's mindsets play a crucial role in this process.
These mindsets are really important when it comes to learning. Her work has uncovered two ways of thinking about skill and development. Some people have what's called a fixed mindset. They believe that skills and intelligence are set, and you either have them or you don't. That some people are just naturally good at things while others are not. In short, they believe that you are not in control of your abilities. Other people have what's called a growth mindset, and they believe that skills and intelligence are grown and developed. So people who are good at something are good because they built that ability, and people who aren't are not good because they haven't done the work. In short, they believe that you are in control of your abilities. Really, the core idea here is people with a fixed mindset believe that skills are born. People with a growth mindset believe that skills are built. People with a fixed mindset believe that you can't or don't have to learn and grow. And people with a growth mindset do believe in their capacity to learn and grow. Dweck's work shows that mindsets have a major influence on people's ability to learn, and that people who utilize this growth mindset tend to learn, grow, and achieve more over time than people with a solid foundation for great learning. And because of its power, companies, sports teams, and schools from all over the world are implementing this into their culture. Over the years, we've worked with a ton of amazing groups to help instill this within their culture. We're talking Fortune 500 companies, lots of colleges, lots of high schools, and even a few prisons who are working to build growth mindset into their reentry program. What I'm trying to say is this is bigger than one study or one TED Talk. This is a powerful concept that's helping lots of different people in lots of different places. Now, the reason it's so important and powerful is it is the foundation for learning. And if you understand this, no matter what you build on that foundation, it will be more powerful. But to really implement and run with this concept, we need to zoom in and look at the nuts and the bolts of it. We need to talk about what it actually is and how it actually works. Through years of work, Dweck and her team have uncovered sort of the defining characteristics of the two mindsets. This table really illustrates the contrast between the two. The first big characteristic we need to talk about is belief. Again, people with this fixed mindset believe that skills are born and therefore they can't or don't have to learn. People with a growth mindset believe that skills are built, therefore they can learn. The second major characteristic is focus. People in a fixed mindset tend to focus on performance and outcomes and results. In other words, their main focus, their main concern becomes how they look, and more specifically, to not look bad. People with a growth mindset tend to focus more on the process of getting better, of learning and growing. These mindsets and these characteristics have a huge influence on our ability to learn, and now we start to see why. Let's look at like the 4 key ingredients to growth: effort, challenges, mistakes, and feedback. The research shows that when somebody is in a fixed mindset, they look at effort as a negative thing, as something that you do when you're not good enough. They also don't see the value or purpose of putting in effort. They've been shown to back down and avoid challenging situations. They get really discouraged and worked up when they make mistakes. And when somebody with a fixed mindset receives feedback from a parent, a teacher, a coach, or a friend, they get defensive, they take it personally, and they don't see the value or purpose of the feedback. So in other words, people with this fixed mindset actually avoid and shy away from these 4 key ingredients to growth. Dweck and her team have shown that when people enter a growth mindset, they look at effort as a useful thing, as an important part of the learning process. They're actually more likely to embrace challenges and persevere and work through them. They see mistakes as learning opportunities, and when they receive feedback, they actually appreciate it and use it. Now, the fascinating and important part of this table is to connect the dots between these key characteristics of the two mindsets and our actions and behaviors towards learning. Let's look at the fixed mindset side first. They actually shy away from putting in effort because they don't believe that they can change. They give up when they're met with a challenge and things get hard because they don't want to look bad. So in their mind, the challenge becomes a threat, and because they don't believe that they can change. They hate making mistakes and are discouraged by mistakes because if you're making mistakes, you're not looking good. And they don't see the value or purpose of feedback because they don't believe in their capacity to grow. So in one way or the other, every single one of these actions is a byproduct of these characteristics. And the same is true on the growth mindset side. They see the value and purpose of effort because they believe in their capacity to grow. They're more likely to take on a challenge and persevere through it because they believe that they can grow and because they're focused on the opportunity to do that. So they frame a challenge as an opportunity to get better. And by focusing on the process and believing in their capacity to grow, they're more likely to understand how important mistakes are in this process. And when they receive feedback from a parent, teacher, coach, or friend, they're more receptive to this because their focus is on getting better and because they believe that that information can help them grow, and they have the capacity to do so. 2 key points with this table. First, you're not just one or the other. This is a spectrum. And in different times, on different days, in different situations, you might be in a growth, while other times you'll slip into a fixed. But now that we understand how it works and we understand the characteristics, you can start to identify where you're at on the spectrum and, more specifically, the cause of that mindset. Is it our beliefs or is it our focus? Second, yes, these actions of learning are great, and they're definitely behaviors that we want. but we have to understand that they come from our mindsets. So to create a great culture for learning, it's about zooming in on beliefs and focus and creating a real growth mindset, which is one of the most important things we can do.
Now that we understand the importance of growth mindsets, let's think about how we can work to change them. Language is a powerful tool and often the most important tool that educators can use. The language we use tells others what we believe and what we value. It's important for us as educators to promote growth mindsets by encouraging students to tackle new challenges and persist when they encounter things that are difficult. Additionally, mindsets are changed by the type of feedback educators give. The key here is to be positive and encouraging, not to dwell on difficulties or mistakes a student makes, but instead focusing on the positive. We'll talk more about changing mindsets in the next section. This is the end of section 1. Be sure to complete the questions before moving on to the next section.